I visited
The Princeton Review ranked the University of Houston's undergraduate entrepreneurship program the best in the country. Learn the keys to entrepreneurial success from the program's director. The do's and don'ts of creating, building, and selling businesses. Next on Living Smart. Hello, I'm Patricia GRAS. Welcome to Living Smart, the show designed to help you get the most out of life. For the past 2 decades, Ken Jones has been a coach, mentor, and practitioner in the field of entrepreneurship. He's the director of the Wolff Center for Entrepreneurship at the University of Houston, the top undergraduate program in the nation according to the Princeton Review. Facing success and failure himself as an entrepreneur, he has learned the core strategies necessary to get positive results. From valuable personal experience in creating, building, and selling businesses, Ken Jones can share what works and certainly what doesn't. Mr. Jones defines an entrepreneur as one who knows the outcome is up to him or her and wants it that way. Great to have you with us.
It's great to be here.
Now, why do you think your particular program is the top one in the nation? I mean, what do you do differently in the classroom?
Well, I think it's more what we don't do in the classroom, which gives us our ranking. We so involve the community throughout the city of Houston, in this case, where the students are all assigned one-on-one mentors for a 2-year commitment.
That's what Oxford does.
That's exactly right. They're all committed to roundtables. We do 17 programs outside the classroom. So the students really stick together far beyond just the classes. Obviously, the curriculum is pretty important. But I think it's the well-rounded exposure that they all get, which makes a huge difference as it relates, I think, to our ranking, as well as to the successes that we've had with the graduates.
Well, also, I'm assuming that the application process is difficult for the students. I mean, what do they have to do to be part of this?
Well, I think the best compliment we can receive is I've always wanted a big, long line around the office, people trying to get in. I guess that's a pretty good testament. And it was a pretty good long line this year. But they've got to apply, they've got to do a video, they have to answer 3 questions and extensive write-ups. They've got to go through 3 personal interviews. And then we want to make sure they're a really pretty good fit as a team. So it's a pretty arduous task.
Because they have to work in the teams all the time.
They stay together for 1.5 years.
Wow, it's very intense. Let's talk about the 10 steps to becoming a great entrepreneur. And this is something that you gave me from your experience. The first one is, I think it makes sense, but it's a given, right? Make a profit.
Well, a lot of people don't. And a lot of people manage incorrectly. They manage whether they've got cash in their purse or pocket rather than whether they're truly making a profit or not. And you can exist for quite a period of time if you still have cash, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're making a true profit. And so that's pretty doggone important. That's why I always rank that #1.
So if you don't make a profit right away, that's not good. You have to make a profit right away?
Well, it depends on how much capital you have to spend up front. If you're a service business, you don't need as much capital as if you're a manufacturing firm, for example. So it depends. Most people are undercapitalized to start. They think that their forecast is going to be met exactly right. And if they get one little burp in the process, they can run out of money and they go out of business, which is why 4 and 5 go out of business in the first 5 years.
What is it, 90% go out of business?
It's pretty shameful.
It surprises me people keep trying, right? Tell me about the annuity business. You say create an annuity business. What does that mean?
Well, sales and marketing costs are so extreme these days. An annuity business is where once I get a customer, for example, if I owned a restaurant, my customer is not worth how much they come in and spend the one time. It's worth it how many times they come in over their lifetime. And then if I take the present value worth of that benefit, now I can justify how much I'm going to spend to go get that customer.
Oh, okay.
So I like businesses, and we try to get businesses that create that kind of residual effect with your customer base.
Okay. Like what you do. Again, that's a given, but why is it so important to like what you do?
Well, every successful, and I mean multi-billion-dollar successful individual that I've ever been associated or been around, all of them consistently have said they really like what they do. And I get really tired of hearing about people lament that it's Sunday night and I got to go to work on Monday. I really don't like the term hump day on Wednesday. I really think it's great when you have that alignment between what you do and what you like, and it's no longer work. And when you meet people like that, makes a huge, huge difference in what they've deemed success versus what you might deem success.
Never have a conversation when you don't know what you're talking about. Wow. I mean, this is, this happens a lot.
This happens a ton. There's so much posturing that goes on out
Really?
there. It's so fun. I don't like having a conversation where at the end of it neither of us know what we just talked about. So some people talk in lofty terms and they put up all this posturing. And I like it where not only from an employee, a vendor, a customer basis, that we're putting clear messages out there.
Okay. Admit, and this goes with that, admit when you don't understand something. It's okay to ask questions as many times as you have to.
Well, whether you're teaching or whether you're putting information out to a customer, it's a pretty good compliment when someone has enough faith in themselves to say, you know what, I don't really understand what you just said. And that way we don't have misunderstandings, because communication is usually 90% of the problem. So I think that's a pretty good adage to live by.
Do it because it's right. What does that mean?
You know, that stems all the way back from when I was in junior school. And that was our motto, whereby if we're going to do something, let's do it the right way, because usually when we cut corners, it ends up costing us more money in the long run.
Okay. So you don't cut corners. The golden rule, do unto others as you would like them to do to you.
Well, the golden rule in entrepreneurship is a little different. That is the golden rule. That's the truly golden rule.
Right.
But the best golden rule in entrepreneurship is those with the gold make the rules. And so as long as we learn to adhere to that the person with the money is usually the one that decides and is the decision maker. And that's really tough for young students to understand. They think it's their business and they're only going to give up 5% and they're going to own everything. And it just doesn't work that way.
And treat people the way you like to be treated.
If you're reflective and you talk to people the way you'd like to be treated, then it comes back to you in spades. And my biggest testament to that is whether you're in a restaurant or someplace, I get so irked when someone is rude or really socially unacceptable to a waiter or a waitress, somebody's parking your car. So you always treat everyone the same.
Yeah, that leads to the second one, the other one that you gave, which is no license to be rude.
There is
ever.
no license.
Okay.
Nope.
Good communication skills are the key to everything.
Well, if you think about it, we end up needing to be pretty good writers these days, whether we're going to text, whether we're going to email, whether we're going to speak publicly or not, whether we're going to now use YouTube and get our messages out. We really, really have to be very, very good communicators. And to me, if I had to pick one major I would hire, it's an English major.
Wow.
Somebody who can read and write well. You're always going to be retrained, but that clear communications capability is just absolutely invaluable.
And be adaptable. Why is that important?
Well, the half-life of information today is less than 6 months. I mean, how do we go ahead and filter all this information we get bombarded with? So the best attribute I think we need to have as a business is being adaptable. The biggest example I can give you from a big company's perspective is when Bill Gates announced one weekend, stop all the projects that you're working on, you are all cease and desisting. And that following Monday, everyone turned around to the web and started embedding the internet and browsers into all the software that they were putting on, because he realized what was happening in the marketplace. And that is, we really are adaptable and we can change on the dime because we're listening to our customer in the marketplace. Makes a big difference.
You have to be lean and mean and flexible.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and drink if you need to drink. Well, I asked you a question about Warren Buffett.
Got it.
You're going to visit him soon, but you've met him many, many times. What are the most important lessons you've learned from him in your conversations?
I have never met Warren Buffett. This is going to be my first time. We're taking.
But you've spoken to him on the phone, and you are going to meet him.
The gentleman, the benefactor of our program, Melvin Wolff, sold his business to Berkshire Hathaway, and as such, we've been given kind of a nice license to afford our students the opportunities to go have an audience with Warren Buffett on both a dinner and a breakfast and kind of a general session. And so we've all studied very lengthy his management letter that he puts out, which is about a 45-page letter, and trying to really track and I think very much admire what he's been able to accomplish in his lifetime.
When you talk to him, though, what do you want to learn from him? I mean, what do you admire about him?
Well, if you see him, Warren Buffett doesn't live on his successes on his sleeve. He's still the same down home, really solid listener, congenial person, and his ability to communicate, back to one of my
What you were
adages,
saying, yeah.
is just absolutely tantamount to his success, in my view. Look at the businesses that he's invested in. He invests in fundamental businesses, backbone businesses, nothing very exotic, that are what I call blocking and tackling businesses. And he has a really good eye on where that marketplace is going for each of those that he invests in. It's been quite successful.
What are the most common mistakes entrepreneurs make when they start a business?
They read their own press clippings. Entrepreneurs are all legends in their own mind for a while, and what they end up doing is that their forecasts are always perfect, and life isn't perfect. And so the biggest mistake that they make usually is that they're not starting with enough capital, and they're saying things are going to happen in a shorter period of time than they actually do.
Okay. Character traits of great entrepreneurs. You said communication skills. What about integrity and ethics?
Well, I think that we could go down the Hallmark card list of all the wonderful attributes that everyone has. To me, one of the best attributes is a listener. An entrepreneur, sometimes when people get nervous, they do a lot of talking. But real successful are out there listening. They're listening to their marketplace, they're listening to their employees, they're listening to their vendors, and they change their perspectives around so they don't look from their point of view out. I think that makes an enormous difference in giving them a little bit more solid base to stand on.
Let's talk about some specific entrepreneurial skills. And you talked a lot about people skills. Why is that so important? Can you actually learn people skills? I mean, if you don't have them, what do you do?
Well, isn't it kind of funny? When you go to school, you spend most of your time in classes that have nothing to do with people skills. Yet true. When you are an entrepreneur and in business, you're going to spend 85% of your time on people skills. How do you hire? How do you fire? How do you compensate? How do you motivate? What do you look at in a person? Are you willing to hire someone smarter than you are? Are you willing to hire someone that might be a little bit more successful than you? And that's sometimes a very difficult hurdle for people to get over. So when I look at a business, if you're going to scale your business, you do that with people. Sometimes technology you can scale, but nonetheless, you still have to have good, solid people. And that's a tough thing for people to start to learn. So that's why they learn by fire. And therefore, one of the biggest measuring sticks, the number 2 reason businesses fail in this world, is employee turnover.
Interesting.
The lack of capital is number 1, but employee turnover.
So you want to keep your employees.
You really want to hire someone who's going to stick around, because there's no training program. People have to hit the ground running, and boy, is that expensive when you get somebody turning over and over and over, and they don't get a chance to earn their keep.
Well, communication skills, you already said that that's extremely important. Again, is that something you can learn?
Oh, no question about that. Okay. If you can sing in the shower, you can also practice alone. If you've not seen yourself on tape, if you've not listened to yourself speak, if you can always go hone your writing skills. In today's world, we have to be so multicultural and multilingual. I don't think even bilingual. So when we start to bring other people on board, that communication skill is just huge as it relates to getting to our customer base.
Negotiation skills, very important.
Yeah, you really have to be able to ask for the order. And you have to figure out ways. I'm not so sure. I love the idea of win-win, but I certainly like the idea of maybe win-lose, but the loser understood and respected the fact that there needed to be a winner. Okay. And so negotiation skills are really, really important, and that is a practiced art.
Again, you have to learn it. Leadership skills, you mentioned listening.
Well, listening, I think if we put some quotations around it all, it would be on a by example basis. I think we lead by example. Do you want to be the first in the office? Do you want to be the last to go home? Do you want to take advantage but yet hold others to a different standard? I think that we lead through our integrity by doing things, do it because it's right type of a concept, back to one of my adages. Then that leadership really shines through on how we act rather than what we say.
Sales skills. That seems to be, I would think that's the most important skill, isn't it?
Well, but isn't it funny? No one ever grows up as a child saying, what I'd like to do when I grow up is to be a salesman. We all try to be a little bit more exotic than that, but yet we all have to be salespeople. And so if you're going to be CEO, you have to sell to your employees, your vendors, your marketplace, your lenders, you've got to be an awfully good salesperson. And that doesn't mean selling fire and ice. I think what it really means is you've got to really be able to invoke someone's passion in what your passion is, and get them to see what you're trying to lead, and be able to ask at a price where you can make a profit.
Administrative and time management skills.
Well, again, the half-life of information is so short, we have to have very, very strong admin capabilities within our businesses. I'm talking about administratively from an infrastructural side, all our communications capabilities, how we track all our employees. The administrative side of any business is taken for granted, but when it's lacking, it really shows up.
It's a problem. What should you know even before you start considering being an entrepreneur? I mean, not everybody can be an entrepreneur.
Oh, I think everybody could.
You think so?
But, it depends on what, that gets back to that definition again. I like the definition of that anyone in your organization can be, because it gets back to all accountability. 65% of all new businesses today are franchises. And the reason for that is that a lot of people don't want to take the risk, but they want to essentially be their own boss.
Right.
And they're willing to go ahead and pay the costs it takes to be in a franchise. But yes, I think that some folks think that entrepreneurs are born, not made. I think we've proven that to be somewhat opposite of that. But it really does make a huge, huge difference, that educational metric behind any entrepreneurial success.
How successful are franchises? Are they considered entrepreneurial businesses?
Well, I certainly don't consider them that way.
Okay, I wouldn't think so, because you have a setup.
I think they're entrepreneurial as it relates to the franchisor. The franchisee is given a blueprint. They're given a three-ring binder, and this is what you're supposed to do each day. And in exchange for that, they're paying anywhere from 6 to 12% off the top to be told what to do. And so they can make a nice living. And if you start getting lots of them, you can make a very, very big living. But do I think it's entrepreneurial? Not in the truest sense, no.
Okay. Do you need an advisory board when you become an entrepreneur?
I think that you need an advisory board no matter what you do. You need to have mentors, right? The successful person is the one who doesn't care who gets the credit. Go find as many people as you possibly can. Mentors, advisors, someone outside your family who will really be honest with you. Because a lot of times in your close circle of people, you don't get too much honest feedback. You get what they think you want to hear. And so getting mentors, somebody who's been there, done that, that's usually the biggest problem, is that experience. Oh yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Now, if you want your children to become more entrepreneurial, what are some of the things you can teach your children as they're growing up about becoming an entrepreneur?
Earning their keep.
Okay.
So many times, if you take a look at family-owned businesses, for example, the children of the successful family owner business usually are not very interested in the business. And because why? Because they were given their ski-doo at age 16. They were given a car too early. They were given a lot of the things that their father or mother did not have. And it's usually the recessive generation that does well in the family business.
Yes.
And so exposing your children as much as you can to the nuances of business makes enormous difference. But that gets back to responsibility. They've got to be asked to do things and be held accountable for it at an early age.
Now, when did you get involved in this? Why did you decide this is what I want to do? I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to teach this. Why?
That's kind of an interesting question. I think we're all victims of how we were raised. I was raised on a school campus, believe it or not. And so I was around education.
All the time.
But yet I was around a lot of people that owned businesses. And it usually just fascinated me that someone could turn around with an idea and turn it into some sort of monetized result. So I have been a serial entrepreneur, and then I decided my give back 15 years ago is I'd go teach one class, and I thought that would be a blast, and I got to tell you, it's turned into something pretty fun.
Now, your biggest successes and your biggest failures as an entrepreneur?
Wow, I've had probably more failures than successes in some cases. I've had a business go bankrupt. I learned a heck of a lot about integrity then, and being honest with my vendors and everyone, and they really came back to support me because of that honesty, which was really kind of an interesting counterintuitive result. We've had some businesses very successful. We've sold for over $100 million to a large securities company that's in the internet-based trading business, that I was a part of that company, which was really kind of a fun experience to have. So it's been really fun for me to see opportunities in a marketplace and then put together an idea, product, or service that services that need. And it is so fun to finally get your first check where somebody says, I'd like some of what you have, please.
Right,
And then they do it over and over again. Pretty doggone rewarding.
Wow. Partnerships. A lot of times people want to start a business, but they don't know finance or they don't have the administrative skills. I mean, it's hard to have all these skills that we've been talking about, so you need to partner with someone. But I hear this all the time. Be careful with partnerships. Why is that?
Yeah, in fact, if I had to vote, I'd vote no partnership.
Okay.
Now, some cases you do have to because of financial or other skill set
That's missing.
complements that are missing. But you really have to have a divorce decree and a prenup almost put together when you are putting something like that, any kind of partnership together. Because more times than not, sooner or later in life, you go separate ways. And we've really got to know how to unwind something as much as try to get very excited during the honeymoon period. So it's kind of like a marriage.
Right.
And so that really matters. And you have to have those conversations up front, very blunt, and get the uncomfortableness out of the way and document it.
One of the hardest parts and one of the most important things to do is to raise capital. What if you've never done it before? What do you suggest to people that are starting out?
Starting out, I think that nowadays it's slim and none to go ahead and raise capital.
Bad time.
It's a very, very bad time. Borrowing costs are low, but now borrowing requirements are so much more stringent than they used to be. And in fact, one of my adages this year at school is our big saying is it's cool to rent. That because people aren't going to be able to go get mortgages, et cetera, it's kind of a difficult time these days to go get capital. You have to have experience. Most institutions aren't going to look at startups. They always want somebody who's gone through the friends and family side of raising money. But still to this day, if you have a good idea and you are reasonably valued, you can find money.
Now, do you think schools hurt the entrepreneurial spirit? And I'm talking grade schools or high schools. In college, you've already decided what you want to do. But when you're growing up, do you think that we have a sort of culture that allows kids to become entrepreneurs?
Yes and no. I think some of the curriculum that used to be in play, it still is to this day, basically say when you grow up, you're going to go work at a big company. And I think some of that's changing as the kids realize that if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And I may be able to take care of things. I see a lot of kids who are now going to be taking over their parents' businesses,
right.
And now realize the responsibility that takes and their quest to try to make it more successful than it was with their parents. So I think schools could do a heck of a lot more in that kind of an exposure. And there are a lot of fun programs around the country now that are doing that, especially at the grade school level.
You said that success has more to do with execution of an idea than the idea itself. Why do you say that?
Well, because we have great ideas on spreadsheets, and we have super ideas on our computer, and we can make them all look really pretty. But it's the execution of the idea that makes all the difference in the world. Are you going to be able to hire the right kind of staff to pull that out to the marketplace? Are you going to take the time and have the patience? Is your family going to be understanding of the amount of time that it takes? So the execution, to me, is 99% of it.
Okay, let's talk about what are the three most important things that you'd like people to get from this conversation about entrepreneurship?
Well, entrepreneurship is alive and well. And in fact, our country turning out our economy around is really going to come from the small business and the startup and the fostering for that. So my first point would be don't be discouraged, be encouraged. Number two, the results and the data for people who are educated a little bit on the business and putting a business together, the success rates are almost 5 to 1 over those who are not. So it's well worth it to do your homework and to really go have the tires kicked prior to your executing your plan. And number three is really the tried and true, which is don't be undercapitalized. Have enough sources of capital that allow you to last through those periods of time until you finally are cash flowing.
Now, are most people who are entrepreneurs, do they have they gone to school? They just learn it?
No, most
They just learn it on
entrepreneurs are
their
doing
own.
it with their heart, and they learn, which is the most expensive tuition there is, which is the school of hard knocks. And they get beaten up so badly, and then they can get resentful, and they'll blame everybody else when in fact they really hadn't done the work they needed to do.
How do you know you're living smart?
Well, I think you're living smart, well, and a start, but I think you're living smart, especially when you wake up in the morning looking forward to going to work in the morning. If in fact you have that alignment, you'll then have the passion. When you have the passion, you'll spend the time that it takes, and then it's no longer work.
Right,
It's fantastic.
It's your passion, it's your love. Thank you so much for joining us.
My
and
pleasure.
Congratulations on
Oh,
that.
thanks.
And to learn more about entrepreneurship, go to our website. There you'll find a complete resource list. You can also email us or call us with your comments at 713-743-8513. And that's our show for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember to live smart. I'm Patricia GRAS. Have an abundant week.
For a transcript of this program, send $6.95 to the address on your screen. Please include the name of the guest.